One late night, my father came home from work with a somewhat flustered expression. He was usually stern and composed, so it was rare to see him this tense. As the family gathered in the living room, he let out a sigh and began to speak. Something strange happened today. A younger friend of mine went through a bizarre experience. That friend, Kang Ho, ran a small shop in the area. The night before, after a heated argument with his wife, he stormed out of the house and stayed at a nearby motel. He brought back some fried chicken and beer, intending to drink a little. After taking a shower and returning to the room, he noticed something strange. The room felt eerily cold. Then, he heard a faint whispering sound from somewhere. On high alert, Kang Ho looked around, but there was no one else in the room. That's when he noticed the wardrobe door was slightly ajar. Feeling uneasy, he cautiously approached to close it. Just then, something began pounding from inside the wardrobe. A chill ran down his spine as he swallowed hard and slowly opened the door with trembling hands. Inside stood a pale-faced woman. Her long black hair hung down as if wet, and bluish veins showed through her ghostly white skin. Her lips were blood red. At first, he thought it was a mannequin, but then her eyes moved. She slowly opened her mouth, and from her cracked lips came a faint whisper. "Did you find me?" Her voice echoed as if coming from a distant place. Suddenly, her mouth opened unnaturally wide, and a dark red tongue shot out. That's when Kang Ho felt a paralyzing fear take over his entire body. Her hand began to reach toward him. The fingertips split and jagged like dead branches. Letting out a scream, he grabbed whatever clothes he could get his hands on and bolted out of the room. He nearly tumbled down the stairs as he ran frantically to the front desk. The motel owner tried to calm him down, but Kang Ho kept seeing that image over and over again in his head. Eventually, he rushed out of the motel and called my father with a trembling voice. "Please, I beg you. Can you look into what happened in that room before? Something was seriously wrong. There was something standing in that wardrobe, and it wasn't alive." The next day, my father checked the police records related to that motel as soon as he arrived at the station. He came across an old case file that made his blood run cold. The very room Kang Ho had stayed in had been the site of a suicide 20 years ago. A woman had hanged herself there. My father had been the responding officer at the scene. He had kept watch over the room alone that night. A pale face, a dangling body, a tongue that protruded unnaturally. He remembered every detail vividly. The woman's final expression had been filled with pain and resentment, and it had haunted him for years. Though the memory had faded over time, Kang Ho's story brought everything flooding back. But it wasn't just Kang Ho who had experienced something strange. Over the years, the motel had gained a reputation for strange occurrences. Guests reported hearing knocks at their doors in the middle of the night, and some claimed they felt as though someone was watching them through the bathroom mirror. One guest awoke suddenly to find the door wide open in the middle of the night, but there was no one in the hallway. Even the staff heard murmuring sounds from room 203 during early morning cleaning, yet no one was ever there when they checked. As the rumors spread, fewer and fewer people stayed at the motel, and eventually it faced financial troubles and was forced to close down. Not long after, demolition was scheduled. But when demolition began, a string of bizarre accidents occurred. On the first day, the site supervisor was inspecting the building when he heard a strange whisper in his ear. "Still here." Shivers ran down his spine. He turned toward the sound but saw nothing. Then suddenly, something pushed him violently. He lost his balance and fell hard to the floor, his head striking the wall, cracking his safety helmet. "Are you okay?" His co-workers ran to him, but the supervisor, pale as a ghost, muttered, "Someone pushed me, but there was no one there. Later, another worker was pushed off the railing near room 203, but again, no one else was around. The next day, the demolition equipment malfunctioned and its engine broke down. A mechanic went in to inspect and came running out, visibly shaken. I saw someone watching me from the window of room 203, but there's no one in there. And it didn't stop there. As demolition continued, workers began hearing strange sounds at night inside the building. Scratching on the walls, low moaning, and sometimes even sobbing sounds. The disturbances became so frequent that demolition was suspended. My father decided he couldn't ignore the place any longer. He visited the motel himself and entered room 203, silently observing the room. Recalling the events of that night, he murmured to himself, "Are you still here?" The cold air around him seemed to intensify. My father investigated the woman's background and learned that she had suffered years of domestic abuse before finally taking her own life. Her family had turned their backs on her, and her funeral was never properly held. To offer comfort, my father set up a small memorial in the room. He lit a candle in the middle of the old room, burned incense, and folded his hands in prayer. "I can't imagine how lonely and wronged you must have felt. I finally understand now," he carefully continued, retracing her forgotten presence. "You were alone here for so long. No one ever listened to your story, did they?" The candle flame quivered slightly. It felt as if someone was listening nearby. "I'll help you move on now. You don't have to stay here anymore. You can go to a place of peace." At that moment, the chilling atmosphere began to lift. Then, a faint whisper was heard. "Thank you." The woman's voice was so soft and faint, but it clearly reached my father's ears. Outside the window, a mist-like shape appeared, slowly drifting away as if bidding farewell. The next day, the demolition proceeded without a hitch, as if the curse had lifted. No more accidents, no more strange sounds. The motel was completely torn down, and a few years later, a new building stood in its place. But with time, strange rumors began to spread once again. Night security guards reported feeling a presence behind them while patrolling late at night. But whenever they turned around, no one was there. One room on the second floor was especially cold, and tenants who moved in suffered from relentless nightmares before eventually moving out. Some claimed to have seen a long-haired woman in the elevator mirror. Others said they heard someone weeping quietly in the empty hallway late at night. Years passed, but that floor remained vacant. People started avoiding the place altogether. And still, some whisper, "Did she never really leave?"